I remember Lane told me that he beat the brakes off of it. Never even thought about it. RCB 950. So a little more margin this time. I'm gonna start on that head. Gotta do. My name is Michael Henson. I own Henson Racing Engines, and that's what we do here, build engines for race cars. I actually started building engines as a hobby, mainly just for a few friends, and the next thing I know, it snowballed into I had more work than I could keep up with.
One of the toughest things I'm going to battle though with that blower car, Mike, is he thinks he went a 412 already.
He didn't.
That car won't run a 412.
I can tell you that setup won't run a 412.
Not on everything it's got.
No.
But what he did is he ran a 412 and 440. He went to Sykeston and went a 412.
Previous to Henson Racing Engines, I've built engines for a lot of race cars for people in the past, but I was generally a diesel mechanic. I worked for International for 15 years. The market got so big in the racing industry, and I ended up leaving that job and opening Henson Racing Engines.
But the rotating assembly together, and the rings aren't file fitted. You know how that's going to take you? 30 minutes. You know how long it's going to take you to balance that crate? 4 months. Depends on how often it is.
Mostly what we do is a lot of drag race stuff. A lot of large cubic inch engines, 5-inch bore space, 5/300 bore space, nitrous motors, turbo, all kinds of fuel injection, pro chargers, just any kind that they want, mostly drag racing only.
Just got done torquing the rods. Make sure the mains are torqued, and getting ready to put heads on it, oil pan on it, intake on it, and send it out the door.
Our forte here is making a lot of horsepower with cylinder head development. We have one of the best cylinder head guys in the country working here, and he has taught me more than I could have self-taught myself in the last few years. Trent Townsend, he really makes a lot of horsepower out of some of these engines that I didn't think were capable of it.
Vegan food. They bring their vegan food.
Trent has taught me a lot. I met Trent through a mutual friend who also drag races that lives here locally, and Trent was, in the meantime, he was on the East Coast working on a lot of pro stock development stuff. Back in the early 80s, Trent worked under a gentleman by the name of Lee Shepard, which was one of the pro stock gods in the drag racing world at the time. And Trent was kind of his apprentice, and he learned from him. Well, Lee Shepard has since passed away. He died in a car accident in the early 80s. And Trent went on to keep developing pro stock heads for Larry Morgan's race team, for several other race teams, a lot of pro stock motorcycle stuff. He has done R&D for Nissan. He's done a lot of work for a lot of different people, and he's really sharp and he really knows his stuff. I had a blown alcohol 99 Mustang that we raced, and we were at a race in Texas and the car got wrecked. We were on our way home and a drunk driver rear-ended my trailer, and it ended up tearing the trailer and the car both up. My son had been watching some TV show, some cartoon, and the popular thing back then was, well, let's go to plan B every time they would try to do something. Well, my son came to me and he said, hey, Dad, I don't know what to do. We don't have a plan B. So I said, we'll find a car and get one. About a couple months later, I located this car. The car was painted red, white, and blue. Bought it from a gentleman and his wife down in Tomball, Texas. Brought the car up. My son had just got off the school bus. I was unloading the car. And when I rolled the car out of the trailer, my son came running off the school bus and said, oh, look, plan B. The television show Street Outlaws started about 4 or 5 years ago. They're on season 10 now. They came to me at one point in time and asked me if I would bring my car out and try for the show. Well, I ended up getting on the number 10 spot. We had a small block in the car just so we could show up for filming. We busted our ass, tried everything we could do to make it work. The little motor ran good, but compared to those guys running on the show, it just wasn't quick enough to get on. A very good friend of mine had wrecked his car shortly after that, Dave Comstock, and he actually came to me and asked me if he could borrow Plan B for the show to get on the list, and we didn't have a motor ready for it, so we borrowed a motor from a friend of mine. Dave put his transmission in the car and we kind of patched it back together. We ended up going to a race that they call Cash Days, where everybody pitches money into a pot. The winner takes the pot. Now, I believe some of it was matched by sponsors, donors, whatever. The pot ended up being $56,000. So what we did was we ran that car all the way to the finals. We had to race a gentleman named Kai Kelly out of Mississippi. We had transmission issues. The car just wasn't working right. We lost to that. But the car really did prove itself. So Dave came back to me a few weeks later and said, hey, my car is not fixed. I'm having to build a whole nother one. It's totaled. I made sure physically, I asked him if he was okay. He said he was fine. He was cleared, ready to race again and all that. And he asked me, and it took me a couple of days to decide, because when you loan somebody a $150,000 car, you know, it really gets you in the pocketbook and it kind of makes you nervous. And I'm kind of a nervous guy anyway when it comes to that stuff. So I did tell Dave after a couple of days he was welcome to use my car. He ended up taking that car to the number 1 spot on that list in a 6-week period, racing who he could, when he could. The car did really good on the street. Since then, they have changed the rules and said that no pro mods are allowed. Pro mod is a pretty broad range of thinking for some people. Pro mod is actually a class of racing in drag racing. On the street, there is no class. It's run what you brung, whatever. So they decided that it's going to be a VIN number, original VIN number holding car. My car is not. My car, the frame was built separate. Different companies supplied the body. So my car was a built car, not by a large manufacturer. So that took my car out of the running for the Street Outlaws. Now, that being said, I appreciate the time I was on. I really enjoyed it. It really helped the popularity of my car. It got my business out there a lot. People knew how I am, and what I do, mainly because of that TV show.
Stock front end, stock firewall, stuff like that.
Let's do it inside on the street.
They is car street.
I just want to verify, you know, better to do that than no. A minute. Well, as far as I'm concerned, Mike, he knows pretty much a motor inside and out. He's real good at everything. He's meticulous, and He just, I mean, he's money-wise, I mean, that's always the racer's big question, and he's reasonable, if not better reasonable than most people. He's just out to help people. I mean, he will do what he can to help people, not just racers, but people. He's just a good person.
I've never even looked.
900, 1200, 110. Find out what it is and I can get close with the pump.
Okay. He said it was in a running pro mod and he bought everything. The Linko, the whole deal, and then he just put everything in the
He
car.
probably changed a bunch of shit.
Well, he bought a new block because it windowed the block, but he kept the stroke, same cam. You know, that's why it's got that odd 4-stroke ratio.
Tune-up's what I mean.
Oh yeah, it's all the same tune-up.
Okay.
He's never changed it. And he said he went a 990 60 foot one time, but it shakes every other time. Which I can believe that because the bottom bars are running uphill about 5 or 6 degrees.
So put a radio on it, it'll probably work.
Yeah, the bottom bar is 7 1/4 from ground to the bottom, and it's 8 1/2 frame to bottom.
It's like 7 degrees.
Yeah, it's way up there. It's like that.
Was he on the bottom hole of the rear end housing?
He's got so many holes, not even.
Okay, well, what you need to do is determine the bottom one first, and that's going to give him his instant center height. Research and development here is a huge part of Henson Racing Engines. We've got engine builders all over this country that are so brilliant and so smart, and we have to be able to keep up with the times in order to keep up with the competition. And to keep up with that competition, we spend as much time actually working on customers' engines as we do research and development on different ideas and different things we can do here. Here. Machine is one of the best seat cutters I've used in my entire life. It gets them so concentric and so straight. Flows better. Makes all kinds of difference. One of the things that I have learned in building engines for race cars, especially working on my own, is you can make all the power in the world you want to, but if that surface won't take it, or the car you're putting it in is not built for that kind of power, power management is key. We have really learned a lot of power management and how to make things work in cars that they shouldn't be working in, or on surfaces that they shouldn't be working on. The fans who come out and watch us race, that spend their hard-earned dollar to come and watch us race, I have fans and I have haters and foes, I guess you could call them, on social media. I have 3 social media websites on Facebook. I've got Michael Henson, which is my personal one. I've got Henson Racing Engines page, and I've got Plan B Racing page. People get on there sometimes and they badmouth and they talk and they say things, but sometimes, you know, the old adage that haters will make you famous. Sometimes I have to go back on there and set them straight, tell them that's not how I am. That's not how I am in real life. And I really appreciate that they're getting on my page and mentioning something that they think that I am doing wrong, my friends are doing wrong, or other people are doing wrong to me. But that's not the case. I get on there and just mess with people sometimes, and sometimes it's fun to me. I get bored in the evening once in a while, and that happens. But I really want to thank all of those people, because if they weren't buying tickets if they weren't sharing my pages, if they weren't liking my pages, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today. Engine building is not a very extravagant money-making job. You don't get rich by doing this kind of stuff. We have to do like everybody else. We have to do good in this world and hope things good come back to us. And that's the way I've always lived my life. I've helped other people, and I hope that sometimes it just gets repaid once in a while, and sometimes a man needs it. Say something about fellow racers. We're like a bunch of kids. You know, we're like when we go out on recess. We might fight one recess, and then the evening recess or morning recess, and then the evening recess, we're all friends again. But it's one of those things, we can't do this if we don't have competition or opponents. You can't hate all them people, because if you did, you wouldn't have nobody to race. You'd be shunned, you just wouldn't have it. And I'm friends with most of the people I race, or at least try to be friends with most of the people I race. Some of them are dumbasses, but most of them are not. So I really like doing what I'm doing, not just for the R&D, learning things on my own car, but it's the social interaction. Social interaction on social media with people is one thing, but when you get to walk out and share a beer with them, or shake their hand, or, you know, hang out at the racetrack, cook some burgers, hot dogs, tell stories, lie to each other, whatever you got to do, you know, it makes it all that much better.